Creating a shell script in Magento is actually quite easy. By creating a shell script, we're going to allow our application to provide a command line interface for performing certain actions. In a default Magento installation, you'll find a handful of existing shells in the shell folder of your Magento root. So the three shells that ship with Magento are the compiler, the indexer, and the log. This custom.php shell is something that I've created for this exercise. You can run a shell by either locally opening up your terminal or SSHing into your server where Magento is installed. And using the PHP command line executable, you can run the scripts in the shell folder. So for example, the log shell provides a command line way for interacting with the Magento database logs. And every shell should have some sort of usage or help text to make it easy for you to kind of distribute your scripts and have them be used properly. This log script, we can check the status of the logs, and this is going to show us the size of all the different log tables in the database and also give us some row counts, etc. So creating your own shell script is quite simple. Let's first take a look at what that log shell script is doing and how it's constructed. So the class name for our shell follows the standard Magento structure. The prefix for all of the shells is made shell, and the class name should match closely to the file name of the PHP script. Now, it's not a strict necessity to have these names match because nothing's auto-loaded from the command line. You're specifically running this PHP script. The most important thing in the class definition is that it extends from the made shell abstract. So this is going to allow us to inherit the basic bootstrapping of a shell script. So in the constructor, we're bootstrapping the Magento environment and parsing command line details. And then further down in this file, you'll see the abstract function run that we must override in our class, and an example usage help, plus the getArg function, which is usually heavily used to process command line arguments. So those are the functions we inherit from the abstract class. And you can see in this log shell, the developers have created a few additional, I'd call them helper methods. So they're little protected functions within the class, for getting the log model, for getting human readable file sizes, etc. And so the run function is usually like the meat of your shell. And you can see a typical if-else statement checking for the different types of arguments. And these match up with the usage help that you saw earlier. Now we can do a clean operation, or we can display the status. And so in the code, if we're doing a clean operation, here's the code that runs for that. Also, if we're doing status, here's all the code that runs for that and builds that little table you saw. Otherwise, if it's an unrecognized command, print the usage help. And usage help just abstracts that, so you could use this function anytime, say, you're throwing some other type of error. If there's like a missing option in the clean routine, you could echo the usage help again with an additional error message or something like that. So like I said in the beginning, the class name isn't super important because at the end of the shell, it's just going to instantiate itself and then run it. So there isn't any auto-loading of this shell file specifically. You're simply saying PHP, run this PHP file, and that PHP file is going to instantiate itself and call its own run method. So when you're creating your own custom shell scripts, it's pretty easy to take one of the out-of-the-box shell scripts and just copy it into your own file. And that's how I started out with the custom script. And all I did was I changed my class name to make it unique. I changed my run function to have it do what I want. And I tweaked the usage help to match my new shell script. And remember, since we're changing the class name, we want to change the class name on the second to last line of this file. So this is simply a hello world shell, and I'm just going to show you that it works. So without any options, it's going to give me the documentation for the shell, and my hello world example works. So let's recap. First, we spent some time reviewing the out-of-the-box shell scripts that Magento provides. Creating our own shell script is simple. It's as easy as creating a PHP class. You should always make sure to have at minimum a run function and a help function so that your shell script is usable by others who you may be sharing your extensions with. Coming up next, I'll be showing you how to bootstrap Magento for external applications, so stay tuned.